let's start off with an easy one. You know, if you're going to be, you know, demonstrating soft skills, and one of the things that you're going to have to do is actually do networking and communications with strangers. Who likes networking in the room? Who does network? Oh, a few. Oh, no wallflowers there then. Because one of the things I would say is that you really can't be an introvert. The market is so competitive. There's so many people who want to work in the film and television industries. If you don't actually put yourself out there and actually go and market yourself in some way, whether it's going to be online with your digital footprint, whether it's going to be going to events, whether it's going to be a session like this, if you don't actually go out and talk to people, you're going to be working in isolation and be in a silo. And as we all know, film and TV is about teamwork, is about working in collaboration with other people. So if you haven't already, can you turn to the person to your right or to your left and actually shake them by the hand, nice firm handshake, a smile, confidence, right? Okay, excellent, good. And basically, you know, I shouldn't have had to say that to you. If you're going to be in something like this, the person that's sitting next to you, one of these days might actually be somebody that you're going to call upon. You're going to engage in a conversation with them and find out what they do, because it's all about the networks that you can form. As I said, filmmaking and television program making is all about, you know, the connections that we make with people, the impressions that you make on people. So, you know, after you leave this room, if you're going to be sitting downstairs having a coffee, don't just like bury yourself in the brochure or anything. Look up, smile. Don't forget, it's not scary to actually say hello to somebody. Make an impression, make a positive impression, and say hello and ask them what they're doing and how they found it. It's not that difficult, but it's one of the things that you need to grasp if you're going to actually be doing what I'm going to be talking about today. Okay then, so that's great. Lovely. Oops. Okay, so which cow would you want to be? If we're in a big field somewhere, do you want to be the purple cow or do you want to be the brown cow? Purple, good answer. Basically, there's a guy called, if you're interested in marketing, a guy called Seth Godin, S-E-T-H, Godin, G-O-D-I-N. He's like a marketing guru, and he talks about purple cows. And what I want you to think about is how do you differentiate yourself from everybody else in the room? If you want to think about it in pure marketing terms, you've got to get the edge on somebody else. You've got to differentiate somebody else from the next person sitting next to you when you're going for a job. Because ultimately, everybody in the room could be your competitor for the job that you might be going for. So how do you stand out from the crowd? What can you do to actually say, this is me, and I've got X, Y, and Z skills, which actually gives me the edge over somebody else? Does that make sense to everybody? If you think about it that way, think about yourselves as actually, when you're going out there, going for a job, whether it's going to be in this industry or any other industry, is how do you actually market yourself? How do you make yourself stand out from the crowd? You know, from the stats that I've been reading recently, for every one media graduate job in 2010, there were 106 applicants. Okay? In 1999, there were 7,400 students studying media-type courses. 10 years later, there's over 24,000. So there's a lot of you. How do you differentiate yourself? How are you going to actually stand out from the crowd? So I've mentioned about not being a wallflower. I've mentioned about how, you know, how you're going to be friendly, and we're going to be talking about soft skills and how you're going to be a purple cow, not a boring brown cow or a Frisian that's only just going to blend into the background. What I want you to think about is how can I be different? What can I do to demonstrate that? I think the things that you could be thinking about, and if we're use the analogy of marketing, I would start off about product knowledge. And by that, I mean that you are your own salesperson. So when you're going out there and thinking about, you know, pitching to people about why you should be working on such a film as a runner, or perhaps, you know, being a researcher on a television program, what is it that you need to do? And I think one of the first things is about thinking about the product, which is yourself. So what you need to do, if you haven't done so already, is draw up, you know, a template of like a CV. Jot down all the things that you've done. You know, update it, so any achievements or milestones that you've been accumulating, whether it's in a Saturday job, whether it's going to be voluntary work or community work, anything, mark it down. Because if you're new entrants and you're still studying, you probably haven't got much of employment history to call upon. So you need to think about different ways of actually demonstrating skills like punctuality, like leadership, like working in a team. How do you negotiate? All those different things. And if you can start now thinking about in those sorts of terms, when you go onto the promotional literature, which is basically your CV, what you can be doing is actually tailoring your CV, drawing upon the sorts of stuff that you've been accumulating in the product, what I call the product knowledge. So think about your CV. When you're going to be applying for jobs and you're responding to, say, somebody like Endemol, who say that they want a runner, you have to think, well, the program that they're making is perhaps about cookery. What have I done, or can I demonstrate that I'd be a great runner? I know something about cookery. Perhaps you could say, I've been traveling 6 months around the world. I did a cookery course and saw lots of things that they do in Singapore. I can see that through the research that I've done with Endemol at the moment, this program is going to be X, Y, and Z. Think about the CV in terms of principles of what it should look like. I see lots of CVs, and some of them are very good, but some of them are very poor. Do the research. A person who is going to be looking and sifting through CVs is probably going to get a couple of hundred a week. If yours isn't easy to read, if it's garish, the formatting sloppy, grammatical mistakes, spelling mistakes, at this time, you shouldn't, as potentially graduates, I shouldn't be seeing those sorts of mistakes. Don't rely on spell check. If you're unsure about things, ask for help. Do not just rely on the computer. But they're very easy mistakes, and I'm really surprised that I'm still seeing them when I'm looking at lots of CVs and giving advice to young people and new entrants. And do make sure that when you're doing your CV that you're tailoring it. Don't mention absolutely everything. A CV should be only 2 pages long, a font no smaller than, say, 11. Use formatting, use underlining, use bullet points. Be canny about how you use the space. Simple things, but, as I say, the young people that I meet, and these are graduates and undergraduates, lots of them aren't getting this sort of advice, employability skills. And I think it's essential that you do, seek these things out, whether it's through events like this or go out and do it yourself. And doing the research yourself, basically. And then lastly, I would say confidence in the report. And what I mean by that is that about yourselves. I've used the word media wannabes. Lots of people, when I go and talk to them, they say, what do you want to do? And they give me some nebulous answer. They can't say, they say they want to make films. So I say, well, what programs do you watch? What was the last worst film that you saw? Why do you want to be doing it? What cameras do you work on? If you're writing, are you blogging? Do you write scripts? Are you making films? You've got to do it, actually. And it's really important that you have that confidence in yourself, because if you can't convince yourself that this is what you want to do, how are you going to convince somebody like me who's a potential employer, or the person who's just been sitting next to you who could be an industry professional who's looking for somebody to work on their next project? Yeah? Because I think very often we're just like on a treadmill, studying, doing the things that we do, and actually don't ask ourselves that simple question. Why am I here studying? What is it that I want to do? So I would say that last point about confidence in the report and things about how it can help you to actually get onto that track, I want you to think about setting goals for yourselves. Get a strategy together. Think about what it is that you want to do. I think part of the problem nowadays is that there's, so in my experience, everybody wants to be a director or a producer. Can you stick your hand up if you want to be a director or a producer in the room? Fair few of you. There are so many other roles out there, but you don't know what you don't know. And I'll talk about skill set and the work that they do in a second. But, you only have to think of and look at a film like The Life of Pi. When the credits came up over the screen, we're talking about hundreds and hundreds of people who would have had a role, small as it may be, to actually make that film. The industry does not need endless numbers of producers and directors. There are different roles and different opportunities for each and one of you. But you've got to go out there and actually seek them out. Go and talk to professionals, network, bug people. What you find in work, in my experience, professional industry professionals do want to give something back. And if you ask them, and then, using your people skills, asking the right way, doing your research, finding out a bit about those people, flattering them a bit, saying what it is that inspires you to contact them, they will actually answer your questions. And you could find out, oh, well, as a script supervisor on Harry Potter, what did that entail? I'm very good at continuity. I've got a great eye and working with people. What is that role? The VFX industry, we have a problem in the VFX industry. We're having to go abroad to actually recruit now. If you're a new entrant and actually good perhaps with art, good with maths and science, good, science, technology, engineering, maths, but also creative and can draw, good animator, lots and lots of opportunities there. Company like Double Negative, who did special effects for lots of the big blockbusters, including, I think, James Bond and Harry Potter, for instance, they actually employ 900 people. The industry in the VFX industry, facilities houses, they actually employ people. If you're going to be working in film and TV, you're going to generally be working as a freelancer. And you may find that freelancing might not be for you. So it's about going out and doing the research. Actually, am I good at networking? Am I good at hustling? Am I good at multitasking? Am I good at actually turning down work? Am I good at making sure that I'm going to be, keep on top of training? Those things are very difficult for you and you're not organised, because if you're going to be self-employed, you're going to have to keep receipts, you're going to have to do your VAT, you're going to have to do your tax returns. Perhaps being a freelancer isn't for you. You have to think about a different role within the industry that might suit you, but you're still then working in the sector that you feel and say to yourself, as well as everybody else, that you have a passion for. So do your research. Be strategic about what you want out of life, because basically when you get into, this is what we're talking about, it's your future career, the future that you can foresee for yourself. And I would say also, talk about it to people. Don't internalize. Very often we have ideas and we have thoughts and we have dreams, but we keep them to ourselves. But if you actually talk about it, it's more likely to happen. I keep a diary, I talk to my friends, I blog about things. That does make a difference, because if you actually put it out there, I think you yourself feel that it becomes more real, because it's very easy to just have thoughts and then just park it, because everything else in life gets in the way. But if you're serious, I would say talk about it to your friends, talk about it to colleagues, talk about projects that you want to do, and then do it. Just don't talk about it, actually go and do it. But this is part about developing a strategy and part of developing a plan about what it is that you want to do, basically. I also say to the trainees that I work with, it's up to you. Nobody can actually force you to do these things. Responsibility lies with yourself. The work that I do and the training that I do, and I work with people like Grierson Trust, I've done stuff with Line Pictures, I've done stuff with BAFTA, etc. I do say that I offer you what I call a smorgasbord. I love my food analogies, but basically it's like a buffet, and it's up to you guys to eat as much as you can from the table or nibble at the edges. But we can't force you to do what you need to do. If you're serious about it, you have to actually want it yourself. So, like I said, be prepared and actually set some goals. Other things I would say and suggest that you could be thinking about is preparing a 90-second pitch about, what it is that you find passionate about the career that you want to be doing. Today, here, there's going to be loads and loads of industry professionals that you may start chatting to, and hopefully you will after today. After this session, you'll feel brave and actually go and pitch up and talk to a stranger, and you don't know what that person may have to offer, because they may be looking to employ somebody, maybe have an intern, have a work experience, whatever it may be. But do you have in your own mind, within 90 seconds, relaying what it is that you want to be doing? If you haven't, I would suggest it's something that you might want to think about doing. Think about actually practicing that, talking about it. Because then, it's about conveying passion and conveying a reality that you are serious about it, rather than just being wishy-washy. Okay, and goals do not need to be big and massive. So the one about which I made you do earlier about networking. I don't particularly like networking, but when you go to a networking event, everybody's in the same boat. We all know that we're here to actually collect business cards, or press flesh, as I would say, and actually chat to people and find out what they do. But you don't. If you see a sea of faces like today, you think, oh my God, I'm like a rabbit caught in headlights. break it down into small manageable pieces. Think about, right, I'm going to set myself the task and the goal of actually only speaking to 3 people. Takes the pressure off you, makes it nice and easy. Once you've done that, you can then just relax, and anything else is a bonus. Another tip is that, you know, look for the other stray and waif at the edges who probably like you a bit shy, but that's fine. Go and talk to them. You don't need to launch in immediately saying, what do you do, what you're here. Just do some research before you turn up. Find out who the speakers are. Find out a bit about that event, and actually then just gently break into it. Or talk about the weather, whatever it is. But you're trying to actually demonstrate some soft skills and actually make a connection with somebody. So that's a very easy thing to do. So that's about goals, basically. Have people heard about Creative Skill Set? Do people know who they are? If you don't, you need to go out and meet with them here. I think they have been doing surgeries. They have been here over the last few days and probably still here. But basically, they are the Sector Skills Council for the creative industries. So they basically do things around training, education, training needs for the industry, a lot around strategy about what the industry needs. They do something called labour intelligence surveys. So they're basically talking to film, television, publishing. It's quite a wide footprint what the creative industries are for them. But basically what I think if you haven't already, and these are things that I would suggest you want to be doing, is that if you've got sort of ideas about the job that you want to do, go onto the website and look under film, for instance, and look at the job profile, for instance, what a director does. And they will literally, because they've consulted with industry professionals, they will have a job description of what a director should do. You got that? And then once you've done that, you want to go to another part of their website and look at something called the National Occupational Standards. So this is all about actually preparing yourself. Goes back to those 3 points about what I was talking about, knowledge and brand awareness of yourself. Go to the National Occupational Standards and look at what the NOS say about directors. And what it will do is actually map out what the competencies and what the actual characteristics of what a director should be. So then you have an idea, all right, I want to be a director. I know I want to be a director. I'm doing the stuff. But if I'm going to be professionalising it, rather than just being an amateur, rather than just thinking about it, I'm really serious, I'm going to go and actually map out what I know, what I'm doing, and look at those together. So you've got the job description, and then you also got like the person spec. You can also go to them to ask for careers advice. I think it's a telephone service. I think it's free, but then over a certain time limit, I don't know how long the calls are, you have to pay for it. But that'll be worth looking into if you haven't already. And they've got lots of resources on there that you can be looking at as well. But basically, if you haven't already done research or gone to their website or thought about talking to them, go and do so, because it's very important. And you know that also it's a trusted source of information. I think, as a new entrant, there's inundated by lots of different websites, lots of things that you're perhaps sometimes asked to subscribe to, pay for, and you don't know whether it's actually trustworthy. Skill Set, and the other one that you should be looking at if you haven't come across them already, BAFTA Guru. BAFTA have a micro website now called BAFTA Guru, where they actually have put all together the stuff on masterclasses, case studies, videos, all the events that they film now. It's all on one microsite. And basically that will help you also finding out about different roles, whether it's VFX, whether it's sound editing, directing, whatever. It's very good to look at. But those are two good sources where you can trust the information that they're giving out is good. BAFTA did a survey last year where they consulted over 2,000 young people, and First Light were involved in that, where we gave them access to some of the young people that we work with, 16 to 24, 2,000 young people, asking them about careers advice that you guys are getting access to or not. And basically, it's very poor out there from what we can gather from the feedback that we had from the young people. It's scattered around. You don't know what you need to know in terms of industry skills. It's very, very patchy. So I'm saying to you now, if you do want to, and you haven't already, these are good sources to go to where you can trust the actual information. And if you go into the BAFTA Guru website and actually join their mailing list, I think in time we're doing some work with them. There's several working groups. Some of that stuff will filter through. And Skill Set actually have a big website, a new portal that will be coming out next year, called Creative Catalyst, which will basically aggregate lots of the sort of stuff that you guys want to be accessing to help you get that first foot in the door, basically. Okay. The other thing I would say, if you haven't thought about it, is don't be too linear in your thinking about what you want to be doing. You know, you guys probably don't know what dial-up is when we talk about modems. You're the Google generation, and what you need to be thinking about is that don't think about just film and television in isolation. We talk about you know, cross-platforms. We talk about transmedia, telling stories in multiple narrative forms. They bleed into each other, so don't be just restricted saying, I'm going to be working in film or I'm going to be just working in television. You're going to probably have portfolio careers where you might have to do lots of different things. And it's important for you to be open to that approach. And again, it's about equipping yourself with knowledge. Go out and find out more about what I'm talking about. And see, actually, that floats my boat. I haven't thought about that before. Might be something where there's more opportunities than straightforward filmmaking. Because, you know, filmmaking is very competitive and, you know, if you're not based in the Southwest or in London, it's very difficult. So think about other things that you may want to be approaching. So in the previous slide, I talk about job profiles, I talk about national occupational standards. Then I want you to think about something like a skills audit. If you go onto the net and you tap in, it should give you some templates where you can actually use. But what this will do then is that if you go through this exercise, what a skills audit is, it basically is about you finding out in yourself whether you have good communication skills, team working, leadership, initiative, etc., etc. And then, you know, if we go back to the example of being a director, as I said, a director has to have good leadership skills, right? And actually, after you've done the skills audit, you may think, oh, whoops, my leadership skills through this exercise have been quite poor. Actually, my you know, communication skills aren't that strong. What can I do to improve that so that when I go and speak to a prospective employer or when I'm going to be filling in my next CV to send off to somebody, how can I demonstrate to them that actually I am good at these things? Because at the moment, there's a deficit in those skills. Doesn't mean that you won't have them. It's about developing them. So what you need to do is think about, right, can I do something outside of college? Is there something that I've forgotten about that I did when I was younger? Is there something that I can get involved with to demonstrate leadership skills? Because you want to be a director, and if nobody's listening to you, and people weren't following you, you've got a bit of a problem, basically. Okay? So you've got to know got to help yourself to identify your strengths and weaknesses. Does that make sense to everybody? Yeah? So look at the national occupational standards, look at the job profiles, and then do something like a skills audit so that I can map out where where you've got your gaps, basically, and how you're going to plug them so that when you go back and think, right, actually, I can do this job. I can demonstrate all of that. This is quite a generic slide because, you know, what I'm basically talking about isn't just about stuff to do with film, obviously, or television. It's about employability skills. You know, what you're going to be doing, because, I think it's as much as when you're trying to find out what you want to do, it's also finding out what you may not want to do. And I think that's very important as well. And the things that you'll be learning in terms of your studies and the soft skills that I talk about, they're all transferable. It doesn't mean that just because your first job may be, as a runner on the next feature film made by, yes, J.J. Abrams, who's doing the next, the Star Wars movie. Doesn't mean that you're going to be doing that for the rest of your life, but the skills that you develop whilst you're a runner on a feature film or on a television production, they're transferable. And, when you're thinking about work, thinking about making yourself employable, these are the sorts of things that you're going to be developing and you can take forward with you. So don't just like close yourself off to other possibilities. Because what you've got to think about is how you're going to make yourself irresistible to an employer. These are the sorts of things that you need to be thinking about. Okay. Soft skills. So I keep mentioning soft skills, people skills here, it's all quite straightforward, but I like my slides, I like my little pictures. I think the mouse. Poor mouse, looking at the cheese, it's got a little helmet. I think he's been through the mill a few times. But you can't give up. He wants that cheese. It's like you guys. If you want that job, you're going to have to go for it. right? You're going to have to develop a thick skin. You're going to probably have to do, approach lots and lots of people, going to knock on lots of doors. You're going to have to make lots of cups of tea, I'm afraid. I meet graduates that says, I don't make tea, or they look at you a bit strangely when you ask them to sweep the floor. That ain't going to cut it, guys. You're going to start at the bottom. You're going to show willing. You're going to show that you're actually great with people. You're going to show that you remember people's names. It's a good opportunity for you, because when you're going to get a chance to actually talk to people one-on-one whilst, finding out about how their day's been and making a good impression. Goes back to people skills. However fantastic you might be with a camera and you've handled an Alexa, or a red, if you can't actually engage with somebody and sound like a robot, that isn't going to make you very memorable, or people won't want to really work with you. Film and television, they're very intensive experiences. They're very full on, and you have to be able to, get on with people. So, it goes back to don't give up, make a good impression, and, develop a thick skin. So you've got to have confidence. That's what that mouse is. He's got a lot of confidence. He knows he's going to get his cheese one of these days. Resilience, I think that goes back to not giving up, basically, and getting a thick skin, because you are going to have a lot of knockbacks. Remember what I said right at the beginning. Everybody in this room could be a potential competitor for a job that you want, right? So you have to think about it in hard terms like that. But if you are serious about it, that doesn't matter, because you're going to go for it and you're actually going to get that job. So, got to be resilient. And I think it's also about, some self-awareness as well. Understanding a bit about yourself, understanding how you are with other people. If you're going to be, say, an editor working in a dark room for many, many days or many, many weeks, cutting a film for, say J.J. Abrams, you're going to actually have to know, am I going to be good at this? Because it's going to be a very lonely job. I've got to communicate with somebody, a director who has a reputation of being very, very awkward. But I'm a great editor. I know much better than him that it should be looking this way rather than that way. But you're an editor and you're not J.J. Abrams, so you've got to hold your tongue. Is that something that you can actually cope with? Yeah? So it's about some self-awareness and understanding yourself about how you function as well as an individual. Because you may be passionate, but actually just because you're passionate and you think you're good at that, is it actually the right fit for you? So, have some self-awareness about that. And if we talk about soft skills, there's loads of lists that you can get, but these are the ones that I would pull out, basically. So I've talked about communication, and that's, very important. Presenting, if you're going to be pitching ideas, if you're working in TV as a researcher, or, if you're going to be like a cameraman and you're asked your opinion about which camera or lens I'm supposed to be using if you're a DOP. Facilitating, taking into consideration other people and getting the most out of them. Interviewing, selling. Influence and persuasion. Any producers here? Any want to be producers? Great. You have to be able to negotiate good deals. You have to cajole people. You're going to have to influence people. Those are things that you need to be thinking about. Teamwork I've mentioned, management, leadership. I think they're all quite straightforward, basically. So, just some more pickies, basically. So think about, communication skills. If you're going, like I said, if you're going to be a director, people need to follow you. If you're going to be in a role where you're going to have to give instruction to people, you have to be confident of standing up in front of a group of people, small or large, to actually get a point across. You're going to be relying on other people. The film and television industry, particularly a feature film, is a very small world. Word gets around that if you don't turn up on time or you're a difficult character, word will get round that you are not. You find it very difficult to get your next gig, basically. And I know that from experience talking to people in the industry. So do bear that in mind. And yeah, that last slide on the other one, interpersonal relationship skills. Be good, be nice to each other. Think about, you might be feeling the pressure. Time is money on a set, as I'm sure some of you may have experienced on work placements or as interns. time is money, and working on a production, I'm sure, is like a pressure cooker, but you've got to keep you cool, and you've actually got to be able to communicate in a calm and collected way. So be mindful of that. Nearly approaching the end of my presentation. So I would say that, in terms of you guys as new entrants wanting to work in film and television, do your research. If you haven't already, and you're saying you're doing a course and it's just a media degree, and you haven't already, you need to go out and actually do some research and find out what the different roles are, and find out what might make you excited and what drives you to be passionate about it. So when you talk to a stranger like me, I get a sense of that, rather than saying, oh yeah, I want to make a film. You've got to be sparky about it. You've got to really, really be passionate. Don't be a media wannabe. That is hopefully coming over loud and clear. I suggest doing something like a 90-second pitch. Practice that in front of a mirror. Talk to your friends about it. But serendipity. You don't know who you may meet. One day, if you're caught in a lift, if you're stuck on a train, if you bump into somebody here, there may, and you can't discount it, there may be an opportunity for you. But unless you've actually can convey what it is that inspires you and why they should take you on, it's a missed opportunity. And it's all about being prepared. So think about that. And prepared to start at the bottom and be bold. Like do the exercise right at the beginning. It's not scary to actually talk to a stranger and actually smile at somebody, firm handshake, looking them in the eye. Just do it, It isn't that difficult. So for you guys, if you haven't thought about what you might be doing next, I would say to hit the ground running, you're going to do your skills audit, look at your national occupational standards for the role that you may or may not consider, but do the research, have a look. You've got to prepare for the real world. Go and talk to people, read case studies, go and talk to professionals, go and bug people. If they don't want to talk to you, they'll just tell you to get lost. But very often, if you don't ask, you don't get. And as I said, industry professionals are very often, in my experience, are actually quite willing to actually talk to people. But don't bug them too much, and don't think that if I've sent them an email, they haven't responded immediately. Don't take it personally, because they might get lots of emails. But the way that you communicate and get across your point, there may be something in what you've written that attracts them to supporting you. But if you don't ask, you don't get. Realise what it is that you want to do. What is your brand? How are you going to be a purple cow in a field of other purple cows, hopefully in after this session, because you're all going to be purple cows and not brown cows now. You'll have to think of a different colour. But, it's about how you distinguish yourself. How do you differentiate yourself from the next person that you've just introduced yourself to, why you should be given a job rather than that other person. And my top tip, if it isn't obvious, when you're doing your CVs, when you're writing to people, it really bugs me. You as graduates or undergraduates, your grammar and your spelling I should not see mistakes, and that's something which is pretty poor. So do sort that out, guys, and be resilient. You are here amongst many other hundreds and hundreds of young people out there, or new entrants who also want to work in film and TV. And you're going to have to develop a thick skin, and you're going to be in for the long haul, I'm afraid. Some of you will have shortcuts, which is fantastic, but the reality is that, as I said, for every job in 2010, which was a graduate media job, there were 106 applicants. So there's a lot of competition out there. But if you're serious and you've got a thick skin and you're going for the long haul, you can make it. First Light, there's lots of information, and we tweet and we do training, and we're well connected, as it were, in terms of getting information out there about opportunities and things that are happening, and I post a lot of stuff as well. So please do look us up and as it says there, join us, follow us, or poke us, and that's excellent. And there's our website. I'm on Twitter as well, and that's my email. And we have a members lounge as well on our website. So if you want to join that, that's quite good. And get a newsletter, and sometimes we're asked to do reviews for previews, lots of different bits and pieces. But that's quite good as well. Okay. Well, I hope you found that useful and of interest. It's always nice to see a bunch of appreciative people, people not nodding off to sleep, for instance. And, I hope that you're inspired and that it will make a difference. And very best of luck to you all. Okay, then. Thank you very much for your time.